What is going on, you guys? My name is Nick, and welcome back to the channel. And I have seen so many movies already this weekend, and we're not even to Thanksgiving. I've yet to make my Bones and All review, so this is what I'm doing right now. Let's talk about it. Bones and All is essentially a love story and a coming-of-age story told through the lens of cannibals. First and foremost, what I loved the most about this film was the score. It's so low-key, and it just fits the film so well, and it kind of really helped me immerse myself into the movie. It made the movie feel more realistic, regardless of the chaotic subject matter regarding cannibalism. But having this like very soft and gentle score juxtaposing the chaos that we're seeing on screen, I felt really helped draw me into the movie. And also the filmmaking, I don't know if we can officially call this guerrilla style filmmaking, because it isn't as grungy as I thought it would be by the looks of the trailer, but there definitely is some moments of guerrilla filmmaking. If you don't know what I mean by that, it's very aggressive, it's very abrupt, and I really thought, especially in the action scenes of what the cannibals are doing to these people, it worked very well. And yes, this is directed by Luca Guadagnino, I believe that's how you pronounce his name, who also did Suspiria, the remake of that film, and most recently Call Me By Your Name. This is probably my least favorite film of his, and that's not a bad thing. I just think that this movie particularly lends itself to being a book more, which is why it's a book adaptation. And that's not to say that Luca can't make a good book adaptation. Call Me By Your Name was a book originally, and to me that was one of the best films of 2017. I just felt like with Call Me By Your Name, Luca was able to trim down some of the fat to where the story just flowed even better, even though Call Me By Your Name is on the surface a very slow movie. What I call it, a slow burn, not necessarily, but things do move at a relatively slow pace. In Bones and All, we're just kind of following these two as they meander around America pretty much. And yes, there are bits and pieces of cannibalism sprinkled in there, but it just, I don't know. It wasn't that I wasn't buying the romance between the two of them. I just felt like it could have been told in a more interesting way, which is why I feel like reading the book, it would have come off more interesting. Because a lot of their relationship developing is them sitting and looking at something, or having a conversation that isn't really too important to what's going on with the film. There are meaty conversations, pun not intended, like about their family life, their relationships in the past, stuff like that. There is some good meat and content in there, but other than that, it's a lot of just driving around and looking at each other. It's very, very slow. But I will say, to the film's strength, you do end up buying this relationship between the two of them by the closing scene. And that final scene, by the way, if you've seen the movie, I don't know how to feel about it. I really don't. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is that Luca needs to get better at trimming down some of the fat. Maybe not cutting out scenes entirely, but maybe trimming them down, writing them a little more fluid. And I understand he didn't write this movie. He had another writer specifically for this movie, but he's the director. He has final say on anything that goes into the film. He could totally have trimmed this movie down. This movie is a whopping 2 hours and 10 minutes. And to me, that's crazy. This could have been cut down to a solid hour 40, hour and 50 if it has to be longer. But 2 hours and 10 minutes, there was a lot of meandering going on that I just didn't really feel like was necessary for the movie. Now, the performances in the film, I completely forget the main actress's name, but please comment her name down in the section below, because she is phenomenal. This is the first thing I've ever seen her in. I could be wrong. I thought she was in the Escape Room movies. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments or not. If she was, then I've seen her in that. But her performance in this is what really carries the movie. And the way that she kind of expresses herself, it makes it so easy to sympathize with a character that does a lot of very grotesque things. Granted, she's the most tame out of the cannibals that we see in the movie, but still, she's a fucking cannibal. She's still eating people. Now, Timothée Chalamet, he of course kills it. It's never a surprise that when he's in a movie, he does a great job. But for years, we've been saying that Timothée Chalamet is the next Daniel Day-Lewis, but I need him to get a more meaty role than this. Again, no pun intended. I think the most meaty gravitas role that he's gotten so far was in Beautiful Boy with Steve Carell, and not a lot of people saw that movie. I thought that his performance in that film was so much better than what he did in Call Me by Your Name, which he got an Oscar nomination for. And I'm not trying to discredit his work in Call Me by Your Name. That's one of my favorite movies. But I need to see Timothy do something a little more meaty, with a little more gravitas to it. I hate to say it, but he's just kind of this quiet, reserved person in this film, kind of like how he is in Dune. And I'm ready to see Timothy go balls to the wall with his acting, and hopefully he can do that in Dune Part 2, because there's a lot of meaty stuff in the character of Paul Atreides that we just haven't even gotten to yet. All right, I got off on a little bit of a Timothée Chalamet side tangent, but let me get back on track. I think that the theme of the film, that marginalized youth finding comfort in one another, is pretty surface level, I'm not gonna lie, but that's really the only thing that I could take away from this film. I don't know, for such a long, whopping runtime for the content that we're getting in this film, I was expecting a little more. But I can't blame the movie for what my expectations of it were, because that's just not how it works. I don't know, I'm a little iffy on this film. I like it, and I'm also not that big on it as well. Like, if I never saw it again, I wouldn't be heartbroken, but I wouldn't be mad if I saw it again either. Now, this movie just has me very in the middle of the road on it. I'm gonna have to give it a 3 out of 5. I feel like this is one of the weaker reviews that I've made, just because this movie was a movie. It happened. It was very bland. Unfortunately, Luca Guadagnino is a outstanding director. I know what he's capable of, but I just feel like this film, for him, was a miss. Have you guys seen Bones and All? Feel free to leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below, and let's start a dialogue. Let's talk about it, because there are some interesting things to talk about in this film. Mark Rylance, for one, his performance, A1, as usual, where we shouldn't be surprised by that. But yeah, have you guys seen Bones and All? I've been looking at some of the audience reactions, and like myself, a lot of people are very underwhelmed with it. I think the trailer pitched a whole lot more violence than we actually saw in the film. There is a good amount of grotesqueness to the film, but the trailer kind of pitched it as a bit of a highbrow version of Twilight, a bit more of a thought-provoking one, and while it is that, it's also a lot of just staring and looking and just driving. That's about it. Alright, you guys, that is it for me right now. I will see you guys in my Fabelmans review, coming right up next. Peace.